I finally got around to watching The Mortician. Let's talk about it. Warning, spoilers ahead. If you haven't heard of The Mortician yet, or if you haven't had a chance to get around to it, it's an HBO 3-part docuseries that follows the Lamb Funeral Home, which had this huge scandal in the 80s in Pasadena, California, all because of a man named David Sconce. David Sconce is bananas, right? Okay, he really said, let's take all of the worst possible things that you can do in the funeral industry, and let's just do them all at once, Save me some time. So the big thing that he really did was mass cremations. Now, mass cremations are when you take multiple dead bodies and you put them all into the same cremation oven at the same time in order to do more cremations quickly, and then that way you get a bigger profit. Now, of course, when you do this, the family that sent you those bodies, they are not getting the same ashes back. They are getting a smattering of all kinds of people back, which is what turned into a big problem. He also took part in grave robbing. He did something that he called pop and chops, which was when they would pull teeth out so that they could get the gold or the silver from their fillings to make sure that they could turn a profit on that. And then he also was doing illegal body harvesting. He was taking organs, he was taking feet, he was taking eyes, he was taking all kinds of stuff to just sell, and so the people were all over the place. This man's crimes were diabolical, and that doesn't even go into the fact that there are alleged murders that he may or may not have taken part in, but we're not going to get into that part today. David Sconce is obviously a scumbag. He spends the first episode kind of going over the fact that he doesn't think that mass cremations are that big of a deal. He kind of refers to the people that he put into them as dead meat. They don't have a soul anymore, so what are their loved ones worried about? They're not the people that they knew, they're not the people that they loved. But the fact is, these people gave you a family member, they entrusted you to take care of them, and then you didn't. And you gave them back a stranger that they have no connection to. And the fact that you took their trust and warped it so, what are you doing? And it's the hypocrisy / narcissism of it all that he after saying that in the first episode where he's like, what's the big deal? They're just bodies, they're nothing big. He goes on in the third episode to discuss when he eventually gets caught, like he should. But he doesn't get very much time. He gets like 5 years because he made a plea bargain and he served half of that, which is its own messed up thing. But he finds out that his grandpa dies after he takes his plea deal. And he starts just crying about his grandpa's death. And then 3 days after the grandpa died, his grandma, who was married to that man, died. And he sits in this thing just weeping and talking about how sad it was. And how am I supposed to feel bad for you when you just spent a whole hour telling me why people shouldn't care about these people's bodies, but you're sitting here crying over deaths from 30 years ago? It's like, you gotta pick a side. You don't get to have both here. Just because it affects you now doesn't mean that what you did wasn't a big deal to other people. That's crazy. So like I said, David Sconce did get arrested. He did make a plea deal that gave him 5 years in jail, which he served roughly half of. And I think what's crazy about that is the fact that so many victims were made from this, and yet he was barely held accountable for it. He ruined a lot of families. He took the trust of a lot of families. There was one person who said that when their mother died, her husband had to go and watch them actually put the woman's body into the oven because they didn't trust that she would actually be in there because of what happened to her father when he died during the lamb thing. It's all disgusting, and I need to do research on if the penalties are more now for this kind of thing, but the fact that he didn't get very much is bonkers to me. As of the filming of The Mortician, David Sconce is currently out of jail. He had been in jail since this happened. He had been in and out of jail for multiple different crimes. He had parole violations. He had all kinds of things. But as of the filming of The Mortician in 2023, he was out of jail. He is quite a character in the interviews that they do with him, and I highly suggest checking it out if you have access to HBO. If you've seen The Mortician, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about David Sconce? Do you think that his getting 5 years for his crimes was enough? Do you think justice was served in this case? Because a lot of people that they interviewed, including the family members of his victims and the jury, one of the jury members, none of them thought justice was served. I don't think justice was served. I'd love to know what you think. Let me know your thoughts on the whole thing in the comments below. And if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, highly recommend it.